As we celebrate the 4th of July, we have so many reminders that we have so far to go as a nation before everyone truly achieves independence. There's so many reminders of the many equity disparities in our nation and in our own community. We had a sobering reminder just a few miles from Cleveland, well within our region in Sheffield Lake, where the police chief drew a KKK symbol and left it on an African-American officer's desk. We know we're surrounded by racism and inequity, and we have to work together to call it out and to end it. At the NeoSTEM ecosystems, we're always worried about striking the right balance in our monthly NeoSTEM meetings. We want to celebrate what truly has been a great deal of accomplishment within DreamSTEM, Wired, and the other work, but we also have to recognize how much more work we have left to do, how far we have to go. So speaking of how far we have to go, let's get to work. I really appreciate all of you that are spending 4th of July week here with us. I know this is a big holiday week. If any of you are joining us from vacation, sorry and thank you. And the rest of you, we're really glad to have you here today. Up on the screen here in a second is our agenda for today and the planned objectives that we put together for today. I think there you go. There's our agenda. And we can skip forward to our objectives for today as well. I don't know what I just did. I just moved everything. Now, what I'd like to ask you to do is to think for a minute about what would make today's meeting, every meeting, successful for you. It's really, really important as we go through the exercises of these meetings. It's very easy from our end, and I hope you understand this. It's very easy from our end to strike a formula that works and to kind of stick with it because it's been working. Well, actually, we're slowly getting disconnected from what you as our members need. So it's really important that you continue to think about what the NeoSTEM ecosystem can do for you and for the region and to share that with you. And so as an initial activity, we're going to use Padlet to engage on that a little bit. And I think we're putting the Padlet link. There it is up on the screen. And I think and there it is also in the chat. Everyone is so much faster than I am. So the link to the Padlet is in there now. Please go ahead and open that up. If you haven't used Padlet, go ahead and unmute your microphone here in a second and ask for help if you need it, but it's fairly straightforward. In that Padlet, tell us why you attend NeoSTEM meetings and what you hope to get out of today's meeting and maybe more importantly, future meetings. It can be as simple as connections and ideas or a chance to work with other like-minded folks, or as specific and complex as the needs that you or your organization have or the needs that you see throughout the community that we're not addressing so far. We're going to spend just 5 minutes on this. So go ahead and open that link if you haven't already. And I am going to do that as well. And we are going to just, again, spend about 5 minutes answering those questions and thinking about the ways that the ecosystems can better serve you and your organization. I see lots of comments, Alyssa, about working together to amplify impacts and also getting to know one another. And I love to hear that. It's one of my favorite things about any of the ecosystems, is not the things that spring out of the ecosystem, whole cloth like Wired does, which are really important. But my personal favorites are when we're able to learn more about the other organizations, amplify those, and figure out where the overlaps are, even if it doesn't go through NeoSTEM. I love when our partners find, hey, listen, NeoSTEM's not working on this, but we are and you are. Let's join together. One of my favorites. Hearing what's happening in the larger STEM community and finding out how to help. Somebody was having a little bit of a slow internet because Anonymous really believes in making new connections and participating in dialogue because it's up there a few times. Alyssa, as these are continuing to come in, I wonder if you can mention the the types of things about, connecting and finding those mutual goals that you've seen in either here in NeoSTEM or in the other ecosystems that you work with.
Sure, sure. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And it's actually a good chance to do that right now. So yeah, it can be, engineered, through something very intentional, like one of the several initiatives that NeoSTEM is leading. We're in the midst of an asset mapping project right now. We have this Dream STEM initiative going on as well now that consists of a teacher externship program, as well as soon to be a big communications initiative, all driving towards increasing the visibility and the accessibility of STEM careers for Black and Brown students. So those are the intentional kinds of things that NeoSTEM is doing. But the real magic of an ecosystem, and hopefully of NeoSTEM, is in the margins and is in the informal time when you get to know, people who are here, people who you can, learn about. You may not have known that the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, is involved in X, Y, and Z. You may not have known that in our community, there's an organization called the International Student Services Organization. We have the founder of it on today's meeting who can explain what that organization does. You may not have known that today, you can connect with Robin from the Ohio Invention League, who can talk about the amazing, I think I'm not exaggerating, tens of thousands of students that they engage throughout the state in really, really cool work. Or, and you're gonna, hopefully some of you will share your work. I know that Siddhartha will talk a little bit later today about some of the climate work that they're engaged in. And you may find that some of your organization's work or your personal interests may align with somebody else's. So it's that informal connections that we want to foster as well. Is that kind of what you wanted me to talk about, Jeremy?
It is, and I'd also like to put kind of a little mini challenge out there just to the chat window here. And that's, I know that there's a lot going on in all of your organizations, and we ask people to share kind of just live at the end of our sessions pretty frequently. And there are people who always kind of step up and share what's going on, but it's a percentage. It's kind of a small percentage of the total membership. So what I'm curious about in the chat is, if that's not the best way for you to share what's happening in your organization, and you have other thoughts or ideas of ways that would be better for you or your organization to share that information, let us know in the chat, because I think we're pretty willing to kind of shift and change and alter to make sure that that information gets out there. It only benefits, I hope, it only benefits your organization to make sure that that information is shared. And that the other members are aware, so that they can tell their clientele and their partners and perhaps participate on their own. So think about just jumping out and sharing at the end of our sessions when we open up for that, about what's going on in your organizations. And if there's a better way to share it, let us know in the chat, or if you don't want to do it there, email Alyssa, and we can bring other methods on board as well. All right. So I appreciate that feedback. It's very helpful. I like to hear that piece is still critical to all of you, and that hasn't changed. We'll continue to think about ways to do that. Continuing, it's now my pleasure to introduce Kirsten Mahalovic from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, who's going to explain how CMSD and other school districts are working diligently to offer students meaningful classroom connections to real-world STEM opportunities. We love showcasing exemplars in our community. So if you work in or with a district doing amazing things, please let us know. Kirsten joined the Cleveland Metropolitan School District in 1998, where she taught physical science, biology, forensics, chemistry, and honor science. It's a lot of preps, Kirsten. Classes for 13 years. Currently, Kirsten works as a curriculum and instruction content manager for science. Prior to joining CMSD, Kristen worked as a lab technician in the University of Toledo's biology department instructional labs. She's presented and facilitated discussions on topics ranging from inclusion, differentiated instruction, the integration of science through forensics, projects in place-based learning, and co-teaching at the local, state, national, and international levels. Kristen believes that to be a teacher, you have to be a lifelong student. Our challenge today will be to brainstorm STEM positions that exist in our region and to think about tangible ways that school districts can introduce their students to those positions now. And although we're focused on CMSD in this conversation, what we talk about today, we hope can be offered up to other districts for use as well. We will be going into some breakout rooms in a few minutes to facilitate these conversations. But before we do, Kirsten is going to help us better understand what she and other district leaders are seeking, and then we'll explain our charge for the breakout rooms. Kirsten, what's going on here? You mentioned a little bit in our pre-call about a House bill upcoming and the ways that CMSD is thinking about it. So what should we all be thinking about right now?
Yeah, so thank you for allowing me to, kind of take over the meeting today. So what's happening at the state level, and I'm not sure that everybody's aware of, is that there is a program called Career Connections, and it's a joint initiative with the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation and the Ohio Department of Education, along with the Ohio Department of Higher Education. It's actually Senate Bill 316, and it requires that Career Connections learning strategies be embedded into the model curriculum. And so the goal of this is to give K-12 students opportunities to learn of their interests, their talents, their abilities, to explore careers and make academic and career plans for their future. So this has been something that has not been as formalized as it has been in the last year or so. And Lieutenant Husted has now taken this on as one of his initiatives that he'll be focusing on in the upcoming months. So to this end, CMSD is embedding a career connections and exploration section into our academic scope and sequence, or unit plans. And a scope and sequence, for those of you who are not necessarily as deeply embedded into K-12 education, is really our guideline as to what content we should be teaching when. It maps out our entire year. And so we are hoping to identify jobs and careers that are aligned to specific academic content. We'd also like to be able to provide information and resources for both teachers and students about those careers. And this would include some hands-on or real-world experiences, internships, externships, guest speakers. Sky's the limit. I'm really kind of hoping to hear what people brainstorm and what we can come up with. And for today's purpose, we'd like to focus on STEM. We were thinking biology and chemistry, but of course the field's wide open. And we realized that this is not going to be completed today at all. We know that we're going to probably have to come back to this again. So again, I really, really appreciate everyone allowing me this opportunity to reach out to this ecosystem and see what we're all thinking about, what we could do around career connections and explorations, and in STEM specifically.
Well, thank you, Kirsten. So what exactly should we be doing in these breakout rooms we're going to be going to here in a minute?
So really kind of wanting this to be an organic conversation. We'd like to maybe focus on biology, chemistry, but again, fields wide open. And think about maybe what types of STEM careers that are available within your organization, or do you know of different STEM careers? I just go back 30 plus years, aging myself, to a time when I saw this poster that was up in my department when I was working on my undergrad degree that said, oh, with your biology degree, you could do, and it had this laundry list of things that you could do, from product testing to medicine to being an animal behaviorist. And often folks don't know all that's out there. Part of what I'd like you guys to think about is what type of training or education is needed to be successful in that career. And I'd like to see a range of things that allow for students with a high school diploma and maybe an apprenticeship to things that require, significant advanced degrees. so that we have kind of a range of things that might be of interest to students.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement on focusing on students who don't necessarily go to college and what the changing economies and STEM career paths, what kind of positions are going to be opened up for those students. So I'd love to hear about that. If in your group, and Kristen, correct me if this is wrong, this is the way I'm taking this. In your group, if your organization has biology and chemistry specific positions to talk about, we'd love to hear about those. If, however, your organization doesn't, you're an engineering firm, you're something else that's not biology and chemistry, that's fine. Please go ahead and share those as well. So initial focus on that biology and chemistry, but if that's not the focus of your organization, don't feel left out. All of these career paths are critical. Kristen, are there, I think there are some kind of Google Docs or something for people to take notes in, Kristen or Alyssa, is that the case?
Yes, so Alyssa said she was creating some Google Docs, and we also shared a few resources so that folks can take a minute and maybe familiarize themselves with what we mean, what I mean when I talk about state standards and model curricula, and then what the state expectations are around the career connections.
So those links will be available to you in chat. Also, once we get to those breakout rooms, please take just a minute and introduce yourself and your organization so that the people in your room are aware of where you're coming from. With that, I believe that we are ready to jump into those rooms, and we will be back here. We'll pull you back here with enough time for us to debrief, I think in about 15 minutes. Okay, so I think we are ready, and we will see you in those breakout rooms here shortly. Well, thank you for having those conversations. I was able to jump around to, I think, all but one of the rooms, and I heard some interesting things. Something that I'd like to point out for everyone to continue to think about before we go to your groups for a little bit of debrief is that as we're brainstorming organizations that we should partner with, I think it's really important. I said this in a couple of the rooms. I think it's really important that we continue to think about those big marquee organizations. We want to have partnerships with the Cleveland Clinic and University Hospitals and Sherwin-Williams and the other major organizations that we think about when we think about STEM. But it's really, really critical for us all to remember that there are a lot of organizations out there that aren't thought about as STEM organizations that still employ thousands of Clevelanders in STEM positions. Some examples that I shared with a couple of the groups when we were working on the CS for Cleveland initiative, we learned at some point kind of early on when we were trying to find volunteers, that Dealer Tire, which is the largest distributor of tires in the country and is headquartered in Midtown, Dealer Tire employs something like 90 or 100 full-time computer programmers. It's not a thing any of us would have ever thought. We learned about it by accident. And because nobody thinks about Dealer Tire as a partner for computer science initiatives, they had a lot of availability for volunteers. Similarly, we were in a conversation, John and I were in a conversation a few weeks ago with RTA about advertising and busing, not about STEM, but about ways that RTA might be able to support the other initiatives, where we learned that RTA hires a whole lot of STEM specific positions. They hire biologists and ecologists who are thinking about working on mitigating impact to environment of transportation. They hire mathematicians and statisticians, all sorts of STEM positions. So I'd like us to make sure that we're thinking about those organizations that probably aren't already being tapped by a lot of STEM organizations that would be potentially more willing and available to do so. All right, so I'd like all of these groups hopefully to do just a quick share out of the types of organizations that you were able to come up with in this first step. I know Alyssa's gonna I think talk in a minute about if you didn't talk about it in your rooms, about working groups and about how we take these to the next level. So with that, I'm gonna just kind of go down that breakout room list. And the first breakout room was Amy, Alyssa, Laura, and Sarah. Can anybody from that breakout room please share what was discussed?
I would be happy to for our group. So we had two main themes that I would say are off the beaten path. One was food. So we were talking about local companies like Mitchell's, East Coast Custard, Nestle, Stouffer's, Mally's Chocolates, and thinking about the STEM careers in that. I mean, you've got the people who figure out what proportions of ingredients go into a product and how much to order. There's a bunch of math in that. You've got the chemists that actually look at the food science. You've got the dietitians that calculate what does it mean for human consumption. So there's a lot within that. And then we also looked at kind of this natural space. We talked about Cleveland Metro Park Zoo, Akron Zoo, Holden Arboretum, Botanic Garden, the national parks, the metro parks here in Cleveland, and how there are so many different STEM careers in that. I used to work within a zoo, so I know there's a ton just within a zoo itself. You've got the zookeepers, you've got dietitians, animal behavioralists, you've got endocrinologists, people that study hormones in animals. You've got local ecologists. We had people who studied the urban wildlife, all sorts of things. And then you've also got all sorts of different careers at those other institutions as well that are kind of like fully nature-based. So one kind of summation is that you can find STEM in pretty much any company if you're willing to look hard enough.
I love it, and as a second generation dirty hippie, I really love the nature angle as well. You know, Alyssa, I know our friend Emily's not on with us right now, but she might be someone to have a conversation with. I know that Girl Scouts has been doing a lot of thinking specifically about that intersection of outdoors and ecology and STEM. So she may have some other organizations to add potentially to that list. All right, room two was Alex, Andrea, Amani, Jessica, Kirsten, and Sid. Can somebody from that group please share?
So we took a moment just kind of to get to know each other and to know what each organization was doing. And, you know, the thought is that while a lot of them maybe didn't have those biology connections, definitely had STEM connections in other areas. One of the things that it just popped into my head when Sarah was speaking was, do you know that the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo has a professional drone pilot that they hired? So talking about those nature spaces, and that they have a professional drone pilot who helps them to map those spaces. So just think about those intersections of where it doesn't have to be biology. And then Andrea, I think I'm going to put you on the spot because I think that you could maybe talk about how really deep that this is going to go within CMSD, and probably, and more than likely, other districts.
Sorry, Kirsten, was that to me, Andrea?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, moving around right now. Yeah, this initiative within CMSD. I was telling Kirsten we haven't connected before, but I've been working on this since October, and it was an even greater initiative. Before then, it's been a 1.5-year effort to try to figure out how to really redefine the career pathways work within the district. And it's going to be embedded starting next year in the 6th grade. So 6th through 12th grade will start getting exposure to all different occupations, job families, career clusters. We're working on standing that up. There's a whole framework that's going to build this in through career self-awareness and exploration, career awareness and exploration, career planning and decision making, and work and career-based learning. And so I have been helping do that. And we're also standing up what a quality employer engagement looks like across all of these different experiences. And that's going to be really a rubric and matrix that's built out to even look at classroom visits or site tours, you know, a visit to the Natural History Museum or the zoo, right? How are we working with employers at a greater level to make sure that they're giving our students these quality experiences, and every experience exposes them to these career paths, right? Kirsten talked about, you know, not just biology, but these companies have marketing and advertising and finance, right? It goes broader beyond just the typical ones we're thinking of. And making sure, especially from a district perspective, that we're aligned, right? That everybody knows all of the work that's going on with the employer. So we're not reaching out to the Cleveland Clinic. You know, Jeremy used that example. We're not reaching out from a CMSD perspective 100 times to different departments within the Cleveland Clinic that it's organized, and we can do it in a cohesive fashion to make it easier on the employers to engage, as well as create quality experiences for the students. So a lot of stuff going on. I'm super happy I saw this the topic pop up in my email, and that I joined today to hear some of this conversation. And I feel like I'll be connecting with more of you as we move forward with the whole initiative.
Andrea, I really love what you said. I think it's a thing, Alyssa, that we probably should have on our radar. You know, we talk a decent amount about finding the STEM careers that are in non-obvious places, but something we don't always talk a lot about are the non-STEM careers that are required for STEM organizations to be successful. And I think that's a really, really important angle, that there are opportunities to work within STEM, but under the umbrella of law or marketing or design, or, you know, all sorts of kind of other things. And I think that's a really good thing for us all to keep in mind. Thank you, Andrea. And I hope you do connect and come back more often. John, I know that the conversation kind of twisted a little bit, which is all right in your group. Can you give us a little bit of a kind of high level of what you guys talked about?
Hey, I have been nominated to speak for our group, so.
Then not John. Karen.
No problem. So yeah, so our group, instead of looking at the who's, as many of us are program deliverers, we looked at the how, naturally. And so we were looking at, how do we make these connections? How do we connect with businesses? How do we really ensure that students know about career exploration? And what that is some of us have found that when talking to students about careers, they really have no clue and no idea where to start. So one of the things that we discussed also is that many of us are doing programs currently within CMSD. You know, Ebony mentioned with the sewer district, they already do, you know, biology and chemistry. I know we do a lot of the other STEM, the engineering programs with CMSD already. So how do we highlight now more those career paths that are needed within those programs that already exist? The other pieces that we're looking at is, a great idea came up of presenting problems that students need to solve that tie into career exploration. And we thought a great place to begin would possibly even be, we're building, you know, one of the Dream STEM initiatives is a website that's the I Am STEM website. And so when we're already building this place to show off careers and people in these careers, what a great place to also put these questions and post real world problems that can get students interested in career exploration within STEM. And we can make it subject specific as well. And then also NeoSTEM would be in charge of forwarding that and keeping that going forward. So we were talking really about, how do we continue building these problem-based learning opportunities that highlight or introduce careers, along with how do we dig in a little bit deeper into the programs that we're doing and add these parts in as well to help give some more options.
Perfect. Thank you, Karen. And finally, we have the Carrie, Joseph, Milani, Sarah group.
I don't think we nominated anyone to speak.
Then I nominate you, Joseph.
Oh, no. Okay.
Especially because you look like John Lennon.
Oh, you're so original, Jeremy. Thank you. You wouldn't believe how often I get that. It's either that or Jesus. Anyway, so we talked a lot of, Carrie works with material science, which is the only thing that was relevant to the biology, chemistry thing in our group. But we were talking a lot about the different levels of kind of careers in material science, from technician, if Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking about the technicians in the manufacturing at that level, to like an engineering PhD level. And we were kind of also talking about trying to figure out the large list of possible careers at our organizations. And yeah, Milani was having some internet issues there, but we like we're trying to figure out, from my perspective at Highland, like we have a lot of computer science careers, but one thing Melanie pointed out to me was, we also have finance careers, we have accounting, we have like these other things that I wouldn't necessarily think of as STEM because I'm so focused on computer science, but it's so much broader. And bringing some of that perspective was really helpful. And I was also looking into figuring out what is every single job in my organization and how many of these are related to STEM. So I was doing some digging on that too. But I think that's everything. I didn't take copious notes, but I took some notes. But anything anyone else wants to add from our group?
Looks like maybe you covered it well, Joseph. Thank you. I really appreciate it and love those. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think that because there's so many different careers in each of the different disciplines that it could be actually an interesting research project for a student to actually, once we compile the big list of all the different possible, well, not all the different, but a nice list of the different careers in each of the different disciplines, then to have them figure out what those are and like what the descriptions are. And so that was something that we just discussed, that it could be, it's a really big project, but a probably worthwhile one in the long run, but just will probably take a long time. So.
I do think that's something that we can and should be sort of building out over time, though, because I think all these comments are really important, that we think broadly about how we discuss STEM. And it is, obviously we don't want to have massive mission creep, so it's a focus on STEM one way or the other. But I think that could include STEM positions in STEM organizations and non-STEM organizations, and non-STEM positions in specifically STEM organizations, potentially as some kind of sort of cross-sector partnership exploration. So we'll have to keep having those conversations, and we appreciate it. Before we close, I know there's a couple of things. First of all, Alyssa, Kirsten, what are our next steps here? Are we thinking about reconvening to continue this work? What's the plan?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kirsten.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yes, I would really love to, if anybody's interested in this and helping us kind of narrow this, the focus down. And Melanie brought up a good point about having the students do the research. So it isn't that I necessarily need this big laundry list, but I'd like some kind of high profile things that might, grab some a student's attention, but then that would allow for them to do further exploration and looking at organizations that would be willing to, have a student, call them up and find out about all the hundreds of things that they could absolutely do. So I'm like, when could we, and so Alyssa had sent me a message and asked, when could we do this again? Or meet, as soon as everybody is willing and able, like next week would be great. I would love to have something informal or formal in writing before the start of the academic year. And if you know CMSD, we've got rolling schedules depending on which school you're in. So I do have students who will be going back to school for the year round, the first week of August. And then, every week after that. So whether they're where they are, if that's not possible, that's fine. Because like I said, this is going to be a living document and I can continuously add to it as we get more information. But I really want to have a minute, to be able to talk to teachers prior to school starts to say, look for this. This is not in addition to what you're teaching or another layer of things that you need to teach, but a resource that's going to help you support this work. So
Perfect.
That's my goal.
Perfect. And I think you can look forward to, I know Alyssa's looking at some potential dates, maybe as soon as 2 weeks from now. And I think we can, Alyssa, is that set, or is that something we can look forward to getting an email about?
I think Kirsten would actually like it next week. And I've been having some back channel conversations with John, who's been leading the communications work for Dream STEM. And he thinks that this may offer maybe some really good alignment with the work that's already happening in there. So yeah, I will huddle with him offline and we will send out an email tomorrow with and work on the date for that meeting next week. And so it will happen then. Okay,
Perfect.
Jeremy. Yep,
So
and
you can expect to get an email sometime very soon. And I hope that you can make that. If you can't make that, please continue to make the suggestions and add to the document. I'm sure we'll share the document as well. And you could work asynchronously on that document. Before we close, I mentioned at the beginning that we always hope that there are organizations who have things that they'd like to share about. If you're one of those organizations, go ahead and let me know in the chat. But in the meantime, we do have two that have something they'd like to share before we close. The first is Sid. Sid, can you share the opportunity you'd like to everyone to know about?
Yeah, definitely. Is there a chance to share my screen, or do I or just speak it out through a presentation that I had?
I think you could probably just talk it out real quick, just
Okay.
because we're on the tail end. But if you have things that you want to share, Alyssa could get those sent out.
Sounds good. So I'm just leaving my contact address here in case I run out of time. I'll be real quick here. I'm a member of the Global Shapers. My name's Sid Sen, and we're undergoing a project called the Northeast Ohio Climate Action Fund. We've done a project similar to this 2 years back, where we had worked with high school students, and this one's kind of like a build up to that. Basically, the concept is that we get 6 to 7 student teams, and as an extracurricular, they work on climate change initiatives which are action oriented. We've secured a $10,000 grant to disperse to these student teams, so they'll be having ample amount of funds to work with to actually create real change. The deadline's a rolling deadline. It's going on through fall, and we hope to close it as soon as we get all the student teams in. A couple of different things about the project itself are that they should be between 4 to 6 months long, and 100% of the project will be funded upon reaching completion. So we'll be funding them via the project time length. I'm hearing from so many wonderful organizations here about STEM and careers and lots of other things about the environment as well. And I just see so much scope here for different conversations with a whole lot of you in terms of what we're looking for, which brings me to the ask, which we're looking for is mainly advisors. We're looking for a commitment of up to 2 hours for in between of 2 weeks. And these mentors will be working with the students to build on these project ideas that the students have. And the other thing we're looking for is just community partners who have some kind of problem statements which the students can maybe work with as a project and things like that. So a lot of room for conversation, a lot of room for flexible, partnerships here as well. We are not looking for funding at this point since we've already secured the grant for the student teams. And as I said, there's a whole lot of more detail in this, so please feel free to contact me via the chat as well, or via the contact information I left on the chat post this. And that's about it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sid. Sarah as well would like to share, and I see Karen as well after Sarah. Sarah?
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm from the Greater Cleveland STEM Foundation. We're a relatively new foundation. Our mission is to bring STEM to like people who wouldn't normally get the opportunity to get some sort of STEM outreach. So one of the programs that we're working on now is a Women in STEM mentoring program. We have been working in Akron on this, but we wanted to bring it to the Cleveland area, where we would identify a group of high school girls, maybe in some urban or rural neighborhood, and then bring to them women in the workforce, and then they would meet, some regular time frame, maybe like monthly or something, and just kind of talk about, what it's like to be a woman in STEM, challenges that you might come across, and then also do some fun hands-on activities. So I previously met with Alyssa to discuss this, and she wanted me to like introduce it to everyone here in case anyone had any ideas or wanted to, like if anybody here wants to collaborate with us, then you can,
Perfect.
I can put my email or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you could put your contact information in the chat, and if someone's on this call and this pops in your head tomorrow and you didn't write it down, Alyssa can get that to you, or John can get that to you. Sarah, thank you for introducing yourself and welcome. And finally, I think Karen is looking to share an opportunity as well. Karen, our friend from the Great Lakes Science Center, who I have to get to tomorrow to pick up a donation basket for a fundraiser. I just remembered. Karen.
No problem. Thank you. And I'll be super quick. So we have a couple of opportunities if anybody would like to please pass it on, share about it. One of them is we received funding from a partner for scholarships for our last week of camp, which is August, I think 16th. Hold on, I apologize. I should have had that ready. Yes, August 16th. And this opportunity has been designated for CMSD and breakthrough students. We have reached out, of course, to those districts, but we do have probably about 40 slots remaining as of today. So if anybody knows any CMSD or breakthrough students, K6, kindergarten through sixth grade, please pass on my information. I will also be putting it into the chat right now, and they can just contact me directly and we'd be happy to get them registered. And then the other opportunity is that we have partnered up with another organization, with GSK, Glasgow Smith Kline, and we're doing a Science in the Summer program. We're hitting a lot of different libraries, but we do have some extra room available. This is a 2-hour program that we will come out as outreach to your organizations and do some small group work with. So if anybody is interested on that as well, this one is tailored for grades 2 through 5. So if anybody has a program running this summer that you want some extra enrichment, some STEM enrichment with, this one is great. It is career-based. We're looking at both environmental engineers and biomedical engineers in this program. So if anybody wants any more information on either of those, please feel free to contact me directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We appreciate it as always. And thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to working with you on this project and more as we move forward. We'll see you all. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you next week for the session when you get the date from Alyssa, and we'll see you all next month at our NeoSTEM meeting. As always, please make sure that you're thinking about the organizations that would benefit by membership and participation in NeoSTEM. Please make sure that they're being invited if they're not already, and encourage them to participate. And if you work with any organizations that are looking to support the work that NeoSTEM is doing, or work of that type, please put them in touch with Alyssa as well. Thank you so much, and we will see you all next week and in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, a month. Talk to you all soon.